Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Game Changer. I'm Maryam Zia. The game around the economic front is changing across the globe, and so is the game in this region that connects Central Asia and South Asia. There is one such program known as Carec that aims to tap in the potential in the region by regional connectivity. Carec stands for Central Asia Regional Economic Cooperation Program. Carec has 11 member countries, including Pakistan. This program provides a platform to the member countries to work for the aim of development and regional connectivity through transport, trade, economic corridors, and energy. In today's show, we will explore how far Carec has achieved its vision of good neighbors, good partners, and good prospects. We will also explore how far Carec is going to bring connectivity in the region and across the globe. To discuss this and more, I have been joined in the studios by Dr. Ghulam Samad. He's an economist and is associated with Carec Institute. Welcome to the program, sir. With him, I've been joined in the studio by Mr. Sheharyar Khan. He's a senior analyst and expert in international affairs. Welcome to the program. And online, we have been joined by Dr. Fazalur Rahman. Dr. Fazal is Director, Pakistan Institute of China Studies at Sargodha University. Welcome to the program. So, Dr. Samad, let me start with you with a basic question. What was the prime vision that a program like Carec was established?
The basic purpose was to develop the regional connectivity, as you alluded in your openings. So that was the crux. On top of that, eventually they were looking forward if we can develop the integration across the 11 member countries. If you look into the trade potential that does exist in this Carec member countries, it's a huge phenomenon, I would say. If you can only exclude the China from this picture, the rest of the 10 countries, their potential currently is around $10 billion, right? But if you can calculate the roughly the official figure of Pakistan trade with the Carec member countries, that is around less than, I would say, $3 billion, including $2 billion with Afghanistan. So having said that, there's a huge trade potential, and the basic crux was that to develop a cooperation among the Carec member countries so that they can develop their trade.
Right.
Also, there is a huge potential for the energy transaction across the surplus in the deficient countries as well. For example, the Central Asian economies.
We will be talking specifically about these sectors later in the program. So, Mr. Sheharyar, when we talk about Carec, we know that more than $45.7 billion have been invested in 246 projects. What were the areas in which these investments were made?
So, Maryam, thank you so much for inviting me. So, when it comes to the Carec program has been focusing on 4 main priority areas, which include transport, trade facilitation, and then there's energy and trade policy. And if we basically compare this with the CPAC program, we'll also observe that there are a lot of overlaps because the CPAC program also focuses on these key areas. So most of the programs or the infrastructure projects that have been completed or are in various stages of completion mainly focus on road infrastructure and energy related programs. And then obviously there's a lot of knowledge products being made. There's a lot of trade policies that are being developed and being implemented. So this is the main framework of the
So Dr. Fazal, we are talking about that mostly transport, trade, energy and economic corridors were focused in these investments. Why it was so significant to invest in these sectors specifically?
Well, primarily, if you look at this geographic space, this used to be part of the Soviet Union. And once the Soviet Union was dissolved, all these states emerged as independent states, and they began in 2001 as 5 member countries, and then gradually they expanded this program. At that point in time, the factors of production were scattered. So they wanted to interconnect not only amongst themselves, among the 5 Central Asian states, but also the neighboring countries and the neighboring regions. So basically, they started it with this purpose of creating interconnectivity, especially in terms of trade and creating a common energy market. So now we see that they have evolved, and I think in Asian context, the survival or the continuation of any organization or program for such a long period of time speaks for itself that it is making some inroads, it's making some progress, and it is moving in the right direction. So I
Right, it
think
is
that
moving.
this, sort of speaks volumes about the success of the program and about the intent of the countries. Basically, it is for regional integration in economic terms, especially trade facilitation and interconnectivity. So I
Right.
think that, yeah. So this is the basic crux of the Carec program.
Right. But when we talk about these investments and their breakdown, more than 71% have been invested in different transport projects. So how can we increase the efficiency of these transport systems, and how much Carec projects have been effective in increasing the efficiency of transport systems across the member states?
Well, thank you. Again, there are around 6 Carec corridors. This all the way connect all the 11 member countries. Not only connect the 11 member countries by themselves, but it also connect the European and the other Asian countries as well. So huge potential in terms of the existing the Carec corridors that are there, right? If you can further dig down to the details, the road transport has been significantly there because all of the Carec countries, they are landlocked economies, and some of them are
Right.
double landlocked
And
economies as well.
the 6 economic corridors that you are talking about, are these linking through roads or or through railway roads? What kind of transport systems are being established in these projects and economic corridors?
Mainly roads are there,
Okay.
and then almost because of the landlocked nature of their economies, 80% of the trade that has been happening across the Carec countries is due to road. The rail transport is again efficient there and been there, but unfortunately the terrain is there, it's a bit more costly in terms of the road, but still hugely the people of the Republic of China, they've been investing a lot there so that they can extend the rail networks to the rest of the Carec country and European as well. So currently a huge potential is there, but mainly currently the trade flow is via road rather than rail. So if you can look into compare the rate and the role comparison in terms of their trade facilitation, right? So road is performing relatively better than a railway. So significantly the opportunity does exist for both the transport there, but I would say currently because of the nature of the structure of the economies that are prevailing in the Carec economies, it's mainly road.
Right, it is mainly road, but Mr. Sheharyar, when we talk about transport system, it is very important to make them environmental friendly as well, isn't it?
Yes, when it comes to the new vision of the Carec program, which basically focuses on the 2030 framework that is being developed. So all of these programs are being adjusted according to the Sustainable Development Goals and also according to various conventions of the UN when it comes to climate change, because climate change is a huge challenge. So all of the projects and the framework that will focus on now achieving goals up till 2030 will basically keep all of these conventions in mind.
Right. So, Dr. Fazal, when we talk about these Carec projects, we know that energy is one of the main sectors in which investments are made. Around 22% investments are being made in these energy sectors. But when we look at these Carec countries, there is an uneven distribution of energy infrastructure. So, how Carec has helped in facilitating the Carec member countries for shared resources? Because that was one of the aim of Carec organization.
Actually, the aim behind creating a kind of an energy market in Carec space is to facilitate the outflows of energy from Central Asia. And as has been mentioned already, that there are 6 corridors. So these corridors are basically not only for transportation of goods, but also for energy. So China is one of the recipients, and energy which comes from Russia also to China, and that also is going through this space. So they have to create kind of a standardized transportation and of energy mechanisms, and also it involves a lot of administrative arrangements which needs to be done in terms of tariffs, in terms of custom duties, in terms of safety and security, in terms of smooth and constant flow of energy and to the member states.
Right.
So energy is the major component of
Right, but what needs to be done to enhance the supply of energy among the Carec member states, specifically if we talk about Pakistan, because we know these landlocked Carec member countries are rich in energy resources, but what about the infrastructure for supply of energy among these states?
Actually, one of the major areas for investment in Carec is through Asian Development Bank and through other financial institutions is
Yes, there are 6
creation
development
of
partners,
energy
right?
infrastructure. And this energy infrastructure, for example, this TAPI, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan pipeline is one of the projects which eventually would be materialized at some stage. The plans are there. So similarly, the existing infrastructure cannot really cater for the needs of the all members of the group. So they have to build some more pipelines. They have to enhance the capacity of the existing pipelines, and they have to also see and monitor, build capacity of further exploration of energy resources for the benefit of the
Right,
region.
right. There is a need to further explore these resources, but what about the cost effectiveness of these energy resources among these member states? How can we make these energy resources cost effective for the supply of energy specifically?
Well, if you look into, just to give you the example of the CASA 1000, CASA is Central Asian. In Central Asia, basically a project 1000. It originates from Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, via Afghanistan to Pakistan. So this is one of the, I would say, the main programs, energy main programs of the Carec program. The basic purpose was to transfer the excess energy in Tajikistan and Kazakhstan to Pakistan, right? So in terms of the cost effectiveness, right? They are mostly the hydro electricity is there. It's still very cost effective in terms of the generation, the cost of the generation that basically they are bearing. So the project is almost completed, right? Probably we can. Probably I'm thinking that if the situation in Afghanistan remain okay, we can operationalize the project by somewhere in 2024, right?
Right.
So we can get 1300 megawatt of electricity from the Central Asian rich resources country, and that will be cost effective for us as well. In terms of the basically who is supporting this project, so there's a lots of potential is there. The current CASA project is supported by mainly the World Bank and other financial institute are there. Basically, they are supporting. There's some funding from our Ministry of Energy as well, but mainly the multilateral development banks, they are supporting. So what I can add here is that the TAPI project is, my colleagues earlier mentioned, CASA project is there, and there's a lots of huge other potential related to energy does exist, right?
Right, there's a lot of potential, Mr. Sheharyar. So what are the sectors or the areas in which finances should be mobilized?
So generally transport, infrastructure development, energy, road infrastructure. So these are the areas that are like low-hanging fruits where a lot of investment can be done. So one area that I would also like to point out that most of the Carec countries, they have like a very heterogeneous economic profiles if we basically look at them holistically. So they have like differences in what they produce, natural resources, and other than that there are...
And there is a lot of potential for sharing of these resources.
Exactly, the market size are different, living standards are different, and then there can be free movement of labor and skilled labor between these countries. So there's like a lot of like potential which is untapped, which needs to be utilized.
Right, there is a lot of potential, but when we look at the trade between these when we look at the trade in these Carec countries, about 3% of the investments are made in trade specifically. So what kind of agreements are made between these Carec countries for facilitation of trade?
Well, again, the government of Pakistan has realized the potential that does exist in the Carec member country, right? The current government, they had initiated the initially the preferential trade agreement and now the free trade agreement with Uzbekistan. So by realizing the importance of the Carec countries, now government of Pakistan is moving ahead and almost they are there to finalize the FTA with Uzbekistan, right? So that would be, I would say, a good game changer in terms of the diversification of the market, I would say unfortunately, still our business community, they
Right.
are focused more towards the America or to the European economies, right? But the huge potential in terms of the Carec economies does exist there, right?
Right.
So the change in their mindset, right, I think is required there. And
Right.
that realization is there. Now also recently,
Right.
we
We will talk more about diversification and what needs to be done to diversify specifically vis-a-vis trade if you're talking about, and the potential of Carec. Also, how Pakistan has benefited from Carec, we will be discussing later in the program. Take a break. Welcome back. We are talking about Central Asia Regional Economic Cooperation Program and the prospects of this program. Dr. Samad, we were earlier discussing about the trade potential and you mentioned about diversification. So what diversification vis-a-vis trade means and how it can be achieved?
Well, if you look into the diversification in terms of the product or the commodity that you produce, basically we are looking for the complementarity, right? And the complementarity does exist, right? Even I would say if you can focus currently on the meat industry in the Central Asian region, I can see again a positive potential there in the meat industry as well. Also, I can see the vegetables, I think that are something very highly demanded in the Central Asian region as well. I can see there's a competition in the agriculture products in the Central Asian, especially in the Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan part. But still, agriculture broadly, vegetables, in your fruits. I think these are some of the markets we can definitely get into the Central Asian markets.
Right, we can get into these markets. So, Dr. Fazal, when we talk about the trade, what is the trade strategy adopted by Carec countries for the ease of trade among them?
Well, first of all, I think there's a issue of transportation. So they have to. They already have done they have created several regimes in terms of trans-border transportation, and also the customs system has also been standardized, and they have kind of a regime which controls the custom rules and regulations in order to facilitate the trade. Trade is something which is based largely on supply and demand factor. So, the flow of trade in intra-regional connectivity is, I think, very important. And there are a lot of complementarities that needs to be created. As it has been mentioned that it's a heterogenic kind of economies.
So what are the issues that are being faced by these Carec member countries when we talk about the ease of trade among them? What are the barriers as of now?
Actually, there are no major barriers, but there are some like political considerations in terms of migration, in terms of legal, illegal trade issues and all that. So these are some of these are kind of discouraging aspects or barriers which needs to be overcome, which needs to be corrected by creating certain kind of institutions, mechanisms, and certain rigid kind of controls in order to facilitate all the trade which is legal, so that the customs should be paid, the duties should be paid, the taxes should be paid, and all the countries should benefit from this organized trade rather than the illegal or informal trade which takes place between and amongst the member states.
So, Mr. Sheharyar, when we talk about trade, where do member states stand vis-a-vis trade, and when we talk about coordination among these states?
So when we talk about coordination, when we talk about trade, when we talk about economic integration and frameworks, one thing needs to be kept in mind that there are like 4 indicators that really need to come together to create a win-win situation. So the first and the foremost is like free flow of labor and free flow of investment and capital. Other than that, then come forward like the trade cooperation and the policy frameworks that have to be kept in place. So right now in this region, the main challenge that we basically see is that obviously there is no economic integration as yet. We're like developing various projects, but there is also a challenge when it comes to free flow of people and free flow of labor as well. And if we compare this model to the Eurozone model, which we basically take as a framework internationally that like works very well, all of these indicators are very thoroughly covered. So labor can travel from one country to another country, they can get jobs, they are all educated, they're skilled. So these are the areas in which we really need to focus. So if we're unable to basically integrate the human development angle into these economic frameworks, then we'll just have infrastructure, and there will be resentments that will be coming from various segments of the society.
Right. So Dr. Samad, we are talking about the integration of these projects. So how to align the national policies of these member states to the Carec framework?
But if you look into, just to give you a quick kind of a specific example to your earlier question, the trade easiness indicator, we've been calculating it for the, we call them CPMM, Carec Performance Measurement Corridors. Two things I think they are very important. First one is the time that has been delayed, right? Once you basically clear we call them BCP, the border crossing points, right? So across these Carec countries, we approximately collect data for 76 BCPs for both the railways and for the road transport. One of the basic, I would say, hindrances for all these negotiations that has been doing here is the time taken by a vessel if they clear the BCP, right? And to give you an example from Pakistan perspective, if we can clear a border, like for example, it takes around 7 to 10 days if you clear yourself from Pakistan to Afghanistan via Chaman or Turkham border, right? So time that are incurred there and the costs that are incurred at the BCPs, right? These are two main, I would say, indicators that are causing the trade facilitations in the Carec region, right? And again, third specific example to your air connectivity, right? Unfortunately, except China, for the rest of the Carec countries, I would say we don't have even the Azerbaijan recently started with just one flight that is again a weekly flight. But unfortunately, we don't have air connectivity with all the Carec countries. So specifically, air connectivity, trade facilitation indicator is mentioned by my colleagues. They are required. Right. Now comes to your question, right? How we can align the priorities of the Pakistan's economic policies with the Central Asian, right? And I think the Carec program is there, right? And then if we can align ourselves with the Carec integrated trade agenda, that we call them 2030, right? So whatever we basically is thinking in terms of the 5-year plans, in terms of Vision 2025, or in terms of any annual year plan in Pakistan, I think it's easy for us to align ourselves with the Carec program that does exist there. So the basic program is there. Now the alignment will come once you basically develop a strong, I would say, a cooperation mechanism, and that cooperation will come as seriously this current government has been taking.
Right.
Regular visits are there.
Cooperation mechanism is already in place, as Dr. Samad earlier mentioned about CETA, Carec Integrated Trade Agenda. So how can Carec member countries can work together, and is this in alignment with the global value chains if we talk about CETA?
Yes, this whole framework is definitely in alignment with the global value chains. Other than that,
and can it help Carec member countries to align with the global value chains?
Yes, it will definitely do. And most of the infrastructure, energy projects that are being envisioned and being implemented, they have to be in line with the development goals of the member countries as well. So the framework that basically develops this cooperation, that has to be more in line with development goals of member countries and in line with the funding and financial implications that will come from taking these projects forward. So
we are talking about, Dr. Fazal, reaching the global markets and global value chains. So how market access can be increased?
The better the connectivity is, the more prospects for expansion of trade exists. But I would like to draw your attention here towards another very important factor, that Carec region, or all the members of Carec, we are members of different multilateral organizations like ECO, SCO. So these organizations also have these connectivity related issues, trade related issues, investment-related issues. So I think there is also a need to, evolve a kind of mechanism which can cater for the needs of all the states in different frameworks and make it more standardized, more acceptable, and more integrated into the operational aspects of all these things. Uh,
So what are the barriers, Dr. Fazal? What are the barriers?
Barriers, I think that there is a lack of policy coordination at different levels. Different countries' interests, their orientation are diverse. So I think we have to develop a larger consensus where all these multilateral organizations which are working towards the same ends should bring down their agendas more closer to each other, so that there is more operational ease and more operational accessibility in terms of facilitation, in terms of services.
So we keep on coming back to the same question, that how to align national policies of these Carec member countries to the Carec framework. How to do that?
So, Maryam, one area where I basically see a lot of synergy that is still to be developed is to basically align and bring on board private sectors of all of these countries. Right now, all of these economic integration frameworks are either regional or bilateral. So the whole impetus from the private sector is still missing. And other than that, we also need to bring the civil society on board. And civil society will be very integral in developing people-to-people contacts that are still missing. Other than that, business-to-business contacts. And these private players, they will definitely find a way much faster, and they know the challenges on ground that they basically face, and they can bring those challenges forward for them to be resolved and basically take this model forward.
Right. We will be talking more about it, but we will take a short break. Welcome back. We are talking about Central Asia Regional Economic Cooperation Program. Pakistan became a member of Carec in 2010, and so far $1.74 billion have been invested in different Carec projects. Dr. Samad, when we talk about these Carec projects, what was Pakistan's interest in becoming a member of Carec project?
As I mentioned at the very beginning, the trade potential, that does exist there, right? And then the fundamental issue was the air and the road and the rail connectivity, right? So that was the fundamental objective, to tap the Carec members' economies there. And as you mentioned earlier, the around $10 billion market does exist for the Pakistan, right? But unfortunately, if you calculate the official trade, that is less than $3 billion if I exclude the PRC. So that was the fundamental objective, to tap the Carec economies. As I mentioned again earlier, that now the question is that how we can diversify the products and how we can reach there. Diversification was again one of the concern of the government of Pakistan, because they wanted to step into a Carec economies with a diversified market, right? The competition in the European Union has been becoming, I would say, a challenge for the Pakistan economies as well in a long term. If you can compare the Pakistan products with Vietnam, with China, with the rest of the economies who produce basically the similar products, right? So that was also another concern, that if we can diversify the products to the Carec economies, that was again one of the another concerns. But lastly, I would say the energy supports getting from the energy surplus economies in the Carec economies. That was the third consideration, that why Pakistan basically joined in the Carec programs. Okay. Lastly, I would say the access to the European Union, access to the Russian economies, and access to the I would say the East Asia economies, where Mongolia and the rest of the other economies are also standing there. So that was, I think, the four fundamental objectives that Pakistan signed the Carec programs to untap the different potential that I just alluded
here. There were four main sectors in which Pakistan wanted the investments. So what were the sectors in which Carec projects have made investments so far, Dr. Fazal?
Well, basically they are related to trade facilitation agreements. They are related to energy related activities, and they are also related to basically human resource development for all these infrastructural projects. So I think that there are emerging areas of investment. There are emerging areas where further investments can be made, and especially the energy sector is, I think, the prime sector where the potential is huge for investments.
So how these Carec projects have benefited Pakistan so far, and what are the future prospects?
Well, definitely they have added to Pakistan's economy. They are going to facilitate future connectivity. They are going to enhance future potential for interaction, for larger, deeper engagement with Carec members. So in so many respects, it's a evolutionary process. It's an ongoing process which is just unfolding its potential. And I think we stand benefited from this process.
Right. So, Mr. Sheharyar, when we talk about Carec projects, 6 economic corridors are there. So, which economic corridors Pakistan is part of, and how it has increased the connectivity with the region?
So Maryam, when we basically talk about both of these frameworks, the Carec framework and the CPEC framework, what we have to keep in mind is that China is the driving force behind both of these frameworks. And when we talk about the region, right now the overall trade volume, if we discuss that, 94% of the trade volume is with China. So when we basically talk about the integration and the synergies that Carec and the CPEC program basically develop, is that when we basically enter Pakistan, the Carec kind of like blends in with the whole overall CPEC framework, which kind of connects Pakistan to Central Asia through Afghanistan and China, and then it goes down south to the 2 ports, one in Gwadar and 2 ports in Karachi. So this is like the overall western route and the eastern route that we keep on discussing. And this is the framework that blends the Carec framework with the CPEC framework.
Right. So how to create an environment that attracts foreign direct investments in Pakistan?
So again, to answer the first question, Carec Corridor 5 and Carec Corridor 6, out of the 6 corridors, right? These 2 Carec corridors are significantly important, and they are connect to Pakistan.
Yes.
And the reason of the Carec Corridor 5 was like when it connects to Pakistan, so that you can get access via Afghanistan to the rest of the European countries, right? And
so in these 2 corridors, 5 and 6, what kind of investments were made? Like were the projects were related to the railways or to the roads construction?
So these Carec Corridor 5 and 6, they are mainly the roads one currently. They are also now looking forward for the rail connectivity as well. The significant investment currently they are making is that now we basically are trying to bring in the trade facilitation measurement that are related to Carec Corridor 5 and 6. So I would say significantly on the BCPs, border crossing points, significant investment is making there. Just to give an example from, we call them the SPS, the sanitary and phytosanitary certificates, right? Once you, for example, export a meat from Pakistan to Afghanistan, you need this kind of a certificates. So initially it was a hard copy exchanges. You need to do all your things by kind of a manual thing, right? Now the investment is there. We are making it electronic transformation of the SPS certificates. So digitalization kind of investment are there. So what I would say here is that the transport is currently, the road transport is currently the main priority, which I would say definitely help Pakistan in the longer term by connecting Pakistan with the European economies. In Pakistan also we are Gwadar with the Gulf region. So these are the 2, I think I would say key corridors that does exist in this region.
When we talk about these corridors, Dr. Fazal, Pakistan lies at the crossroads of Central Asia, South Asia and Southeast Asia. What can Pakistan offer to these Carec member countries?
Well, Pakistan, certainly these countries are landlocked countries. Some of the countries are landlocked countries. So we can provide them access to the seas for their trade. We can also create better conducive environment for onward connectivity to Southeast Asia, which is very much needed and which is very much required. But I think it is like it has become hostage to Pakistan-India adversarial relations. But certainly trade facilitation in a larger framework perhaps could be in future could be a feasible or a possible thing. So I think that Pakistan is, sort of at a very strategic location, which can connect Central Asia with West
Right,
Asia,
and we can
with
give
South
access to the
Asia.
warm waters, of course.
Yeah, so it's a hub. We can create ourselves as a hub for intra-regional transactions.
Right. So when we talk about these Carec member countries, and the vision behind the Carec was to share the resources among these member countries. So how can Pakistan benefit from it?
If Pakistan can offer, I would say, just one, I would call them the transit trade agreement, right? And there's a huge potential for Pakistan. If we can have a transit trade agreement with the Central Asian countries, they can definitely utilize the seaports of Pakistan. And again, these are something the Carec economies are really looking forward for the utilization of the seaports in Pakistan, right? So, but unfortunately, still, we need to sign a transit trade agreement with the Central Asian economies. In Carec economies, if you can look into only the Kazakhstan economy, they are hugely getting benefit from the transit trade from the rest of the Central Asian economies, and they are in billion, right? But unfortunately, we don't have that kind of a transit trade agreement with the Central Asian region. Now, government has realized it, and government is looking forward for the continuation of getting benefit from the transit trade agreement.
Right.
So that is something I think really important
Right.
out of the big pie.
Right. So, Mr. Sheharyar, we are looking at this momentum of connectivity going in the region. How Pakistan can benefit from this momentum of connectivity?
So now, Maryam, the Carec 2030 framework that is being discussed and the integration framework that are like under discussion. So there's a great potential in which we can basically take this partnership forward, and there's like certain realignment that is also taking place because of the regional dynamics that are prevalent in our region. So when it comes to the 2030 framework, there are like 5 key areas that are being discussed, and
Right.
that is
Operational clusters have been
clusters
evolved.
are being
Right.
discussed. So
Let's discuss those clusters.
yeah, so there are like 5 key clusters that will be focused on. So one is trade, transport, infrastructure. Then there is energy. Tourism has also been included in this whole framework. And other than that, we are also working on agriculture, water, climate change, and human resource development. And again, these clusters are in line with the already established CPEC infrastructure as well.
They have expanded the
Yes.
operational areas.
So there are like
basically.
a lot of synergies are being created within both these frameworks, so they can like work together in conjunction and basically take this partnership forward.
Right. So, Dr. Fazal, we were talking about that operational clusters have been expanded in Carec Strategy 2030. So, what lessons have been learned by Carec member states so far?
Let me also mention about the transit trade, which was the point which was mentioned earlier on. I think
Sure.
it was in 1990s that we have a quadrilateral transit trade agreement with Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, China, and Pakistan, but it did not really take off for several reasons. And that is again the border management, the customs rules, regulations, and some other transportation hurdles in that. I think we have to look into the practical modalities of easing the transportation, and these transit agreements needs to be reviewed, I think, in terms of like future requirements and their future potential. As far as the potential for
Lessons learned. Yes.
yeah, the lessons are concerned, I think the lessons are that we have to, as Sheharyar has mentioned, that we have to bring in the private sector, and most of the things should be done in public-private partnership, so that there is a new momentum, there's more enthusiasm towards implementing most of the policies, the projects, and the agendas, which is a kind of enthusiasm is a little bit, sort of having a lackluster approach from the different, sort of quarters. So I think the implementation is the most important thing. Whatever we agree upon, we must implement that in letter and spirit, rather than just, sort of signing MOUs, agreements, and then waiting,
Of
to see them.
Implementation of these strategies is the key. So let's talk about the Carec 2030 strategy. What are the main contours of this strategy, and how Pakistan will be benefited from this?
Well, as I mentioned by earlier, Sheharyar, so I don't want to repeat, but those 6 basically clusters or theme or
How
thematic
Pakistan
areas,
will
right?
be impacted.
But now the question is how Pakistan can get benefit out of those different themes or cluster, right? Again, to give you an example from the energy discussion, right? If, for example, if we can implement the Energy CASA project, you can get a 1300 megawatt of electricity from the Carec programs, that is the CASA one, right? In this energy is also cost efficient, and definitely it will benefit the national exchequer as well. Definitely, as you can see, like we've been spending a lot of foreign reserves on the importation of the energy or energy related products, right? So one thing is that if you can develop the coordination with the Central Asian economies, out of these 6 clusters, we can definitely get in the, I would say, the cheaper energy from the Central Asian region. Another one that is related to the transport and corridors connectivity things. If you develop the transport and connectivity with them, we can easily access the Pakistani products to the Central Asian economies.
Right.
And definitely in reverse, those projects can be imported, will definitely help the Pakistanis. For example, if you can see lots of
Right.
inflation here.
Of
So
course.
connectivity will definitely bring
Give
in the,
economic boost,
yes.
right? So what are the some of the developmental challenges that emerged as a result of the current international economy and the things that are happening across the globe?
So Maryam, when we talk about the regional dynamics, they're very important, and as Dr. Saab also mentioned, that most of the challenges that are emanating in terms of implementation of most of these infrastructure projects are with Afghanistan. So as we know that the security situation, first of all, is always a challenge, and then because there is no formal recognition of the state of Afghanistan and the current political dynamics taking place over there. So a lot of like international multilateral financial institutions are always very reluctant in making investments in those areas. Other than the multilateral financial institutions, even like states like China would be very careful in basically making those investments. So that's like the biggest challenge. Other than that, the Ukraine issue.
So how to enhance knowledge sharing programs among Carec member states?
I think one of the key institute, I'd say, that is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, right? And we are member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and in all of the Carec economies are members there, right? Now, the key here is the bilateral exchanges with the Carec economies. As I mentioned earlier, we have been developing with the Azerbaijan. Now we are expanding towards the Uzbekistans. The knowledge exchange programs are there. With Uzbekistan, they now are attracting the international universities are there, right? We are a member of the Central Asian University. Their head offices are in Central Asian economies, right? So for the HAC in Pakistan can develop the MOU with the Central Asian University there. Except the Central Asian University, there's lots of other foreign institutes. The research institute, they are also established in the Central Asian economies. I think we can, via the HAC or the rest of the other institution, can develop exchange program with the Central Asian economies so that we can develop the knowledge exchange or the knowledge corridors with the rest of the Carec economies.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Ghulam Samad, for joining in today's show. Thank you very much, Mr. Sheharyar Khan, for your insights in today's program. Thank you very much, Dr. Fazalur Rahman, for joining in today's program. In today's show, we talked about Central Asia Regional Economic Cooperation Program. Carec is working for increasing connectivity in the region by enhancing the energy corridors and improving the infrastructures of these countries. By promoting regional connectivity, this region can emerge as hub of trade and commerce. That is all from Game Changer tonight. Take care. Allah Hafiz.